Hey guys, here's something that may be mildly interesting to you if you're a Mopar guy like myself. This is a Super Six intake assembly for a slant six engine, and what this is a majority of slant six engines from 1960 up through 87 when they went out of production in cars and trucks, specifically trucks then, to be replaced by the 3.9 V6. They all had, I'd say probably 75% of them came with a one barrel carburetor of different manufacturer. A lot of Carters and a lot of Hollies and just intermingled. There were some other ones, might have been a few oddballs in there, but generally speaking they came with a one barrel. And you know, that's for the application back in the mid 60s, early 70s. It was, you know, it was okay. The engine was a good engine for what it was intended to do, but as the cars got a little bit heavier in the mid to late 70s, and they got more smogged up, it just had less power. I think in the early 60s, gross horsepower rating on a slant six was somewhere around, I don't know, maybe around 140 horsepower, somewhere in there. And then by the late 70s, mid to late 70s, it was down to about, let's see, about 90 net horsepower. So 90 net horsepower is not much. So Mopar looked around for a way to get more power out of these things, and so you hear that every weekend in this neighborhood. They looked for ways to get more power out of those things, so what they came up with is they decided to put a two-barrel carburetor on them. And so that's what this is. This is a factory Super Six. It's just simply a slant six intake and manifold combination that's designed for a two-barrel carburetor, and that's what this is on it. This is a Carter BBD two-barrel, probably about 280 to 300 CFM capability. And it's generally the same carburetor as what goes on all the 318s of that era, but there's a few, maybe some metering differences in it, but for the most part they're the same. There are some things about this assembly that are different. Now you can duplicate, you know, this wasn't the only two barrel applications. I mean, they put two barrels on the later vans and trucks, so it's not that hard to find the intake. And it's not quite that hard to find the carburetor, but there's a few things that are specific to these. I'm going to point this out to you, so you know if you got a Super Six intake or carburetor or anything like that. The carburetor is a BBD, so you see here. This one I was fortunate enough to get the number that has the tag with it, which has probably never been rebuilt. So that one is 8241S. And another thing to point out is it has a curved PCV tube at the back. The V8s have a straight in. This has a curve because on the slant six the PCV's in the valve cover over here, and so the line runs that way. And then also it has a specific electric choke assembly, because what's interesting about this is because it's oriented differently. You see it comes out pointed towards the front, this rod does. That's because it's actually got a, can't really see down in there, but it's got like a little, the way it's made, it turns the direction of travel. But what's specific to this is that on a one barrel, the axis, you'll notice, let me get around over here. On a one barrel, the throttle blade and throttle lever axis, I guess you could say, is shaft. That's what I'm trying to say. Throttle shaft is front to rear, and on this one it's exactly the opposite. It's side to side, so you have to turn the choke a different way to get that to operate. And then this has a specific bracket to get the throttle cable, which comes in here and connects up here, and get all that oriented correctly. Looks like it had a spring on it that broke. I don't know that that's supposed to be there, but that looks factory. Return spring. Fuel lines, nothing special about those. It had a fuel line that ran around the front of the engine, which that's not the preferred way. The later ones had one that went over the valve cover, and I put that on Uncle Phil's car. But this is off of 79, and it looks to be in pretty good shape. Everything's free on it. The flapper down there for the heated stove is free. It's got this little guy here, which you don't have on the early ones, but it's all there. I was not going to pass this up, because that junkyard, this car, the hood was closed on it, and the hood opener was completely gone off of it. So I don't know if that happened before it went in the junkyard or after, but you couldn't get the hood off of it. I mean, the hood open on it, and so I guess it saved all this from going away, because this is, you know, they're not overly valuable, but somebody that's a Mopar person, they know what this is, and they know it's worth having. So I don't know what I'll do with it. I don't have an immediate need for it, but I did get the air cleaner with it. Coup de grace. So this thing probably uprates the horsepower about, I'd say, 15 to 20 horsepower. You know, that's Slant 6. It's just the same old Slant 6. It wasn't hopped up anymore. It just had a different carburetor on it. So it gave me, like I say, about, I'd say, 15 to 20 more horsepower. You can look that up if you want to. And the thing about this particular engine that this came off with, evidently that added 20 horsepower was too much for it, because it had slung 2 rods out the side of the engine. It had a big old hole in the crankcase and a piece of a rod up here on the side of the fender well. So, but anyway, that's what this is, and I thought some of you guys have never seen this or may never known about this would be interested to see this. So I wanted to save this. And like I said, I don't have any immediate plans for it. I may keep it for my own use at some point, or I may just turn it around and sell it, but I didn't want it to get crushed or anything like that, because, you know, I'm sorry to make these observations all the time, but we seem like we're in a world these days, a society that doesn't want to put forth any effort for anything. So I figured that car would have just sat there without anybody even trying to figure out how to get the hood open, which I knew how to do that. I got it popped right up, and then it would have sat there and would have just got crushed, so nobody could use it then. So, and this thing fought me. I've got grease all the way up both elbows. I got to get in the shower, but I didn't break any bolts off. That was amazing. The only real hard thing to do was to get the two nuts off the 2 nuts off on the bottom there where the exhaust pipe goes. 2 nuts, that's a musty joke. And that was it. I had air conditioner. I hate working on those things when they have air conditioner, because that air conditioner sits right up at the front up there, and it's got all these brackets and bolts and stuff, and you have to just almost disassemble the damn thing to get it out of the way. So I'm thinking about, I may go over there, back over there next weekend and grab a few more parts off that, because I try to keep that stuff saved and in inventory, and we just don't have many Mopar fans in this part of the country. This is a Mopar desert. So, all Chevy, all Ford down here. We don't know about them damn Mopars. I had one time. Had a buddy of mine. He had one, and never could keep it running. It wouldn't stay cranked. So anyway, there you go, guys. 1979 Plymouth Volare Super 6. Thanks for watching.